The 1967 romantic comedy The Graduate, directed by Mike Nichols and written by Buck Henry, was based on a novel by the same name. The movie launched Dustin Hoffman into stardom, and it's been forever analyzed as a document of the shifting political, social, and sexual standards of the era. It deals with the generation gap between parents and kids. It wrestles with the issues of disappointing your parents, and it exposes the sexual openness that emerged that same year. There was a little bit of Benjamin Braddock in almost every college graduate at that time. But this could have been a very different film. The Simon and Garfunkel theme song that we all know so well almost didn't happen. And Dustin Hoffman almost didn't get the part. The iconic poster image that you're familiar with is not what you thought it was. And Anne Bancroft is nowhere near as scandalous a lover for Dustin Hoffman as we were led to think. All of the adults in this movie have no first names. I find it interesting that Benjamin Braddock and his friends all have first names, but every adult in the movie is addressed as either Mr. or Mrs. Even after Benjamin sleeps with Mrs. Robinson, he never addresses her by her first name. This is said to have been a clear sign of the generation gap that was so prevalent at the time. The true ages in the movie are completely wrong. Anne Bancroft was just 6 years older than Dustin Hoffman. I find this so hard to believe because she looks much older than Hoffman does in the picture. And that may be partially because Dustin Hoffman looks so young. They are supposed to be a generation gap apart. Initially, Gene Hackman was the actor that was cast to play Mr. Robinson, but he was fired shortly after the production got going by the director because he felt that he was too young to play the role of Miss Robinson's husband. Catherine Ross and Dustin Hoffman, at the time of the filming of the movie, were both in their late 20s, which makes them a little bit too old to be college kids. The production company contracted with Paul Simon to write multiple songs for the movie, but the 2 songs that he turned in to Mike Nichols were immediately rejected. These songs both show up on Simon and Garfunkel's 1968 album, Bookends, one being Hazy Shade of Winter and the second being Punky's Dilemma. The director had been using The Sound of Silence as a placeholder while editing the movie's audio track. After doing this for a period of time, he decided that the song just felt right for the film, and he purchased the rights to use it in key scenes. It plays 3 times in the film, but the director still needed another song. Garfunkel came up with a solution. He told him that he had been working on a song called Mrs. Roosevelt. The director then talked the singers into changing it to Mrs. Robinson. The character in the screenplay and the book was listed as a tall, handsome Californian, not a short Jewish kid from New York. Robert Redford was up for the role, and there's no doubt that he fit the image much better than Hoffman did. The director didn't like Robert Redford for the role because he felt like there was no way that he could play a loser. And the fact that Robert Redford has probably never struck out in his life with a girl. Dustin Hoffman was truly an unknown actor at the time, and he was paid only $17,000 for his role in The Graduate. After taxes and expenses, it's reported that he took in about $4,000 for the project. He could have made a lot more, though, but he took a stand just on his artistic principle. Before he had ever really been tested, he was told that the studio would require the actor to sign a multi-picture deal, and he didn't want to do that. He didn't want the studio to have that much control on his career. After filming was complete, he returned to New York City and put roughly $3,000 in the bank, and then he filed for unemployment, where he got paid between $45 to $50 a week, while the production company was editing him into stardom. As a young actor, he had worked pretty steadily in theater and in TV through the 1960s, but he hadn't had a major film hit yet. his big chance was set to be in The Producers, which was a Mel Brooks film that was going on at the same time that The Graduate was being filmed. Hoffman bowed out of the Mel Brooks production and went with what he thought was a bigger opportunity, especially in the fact that Mel Brooks's wife was Anne Bancroft, who was already cast as Mrs. Robinson. At the end of the movie, there's been a lot of speculation that the church wedding scene has a reference to the crucifixion of Christ in it, but that's not the case. The imagery may look that way when Benjamin shows up to stop Elaine's wedding. He spreads his arms out across the church window, but there was really a more practical reason for him doing this. The initial idea was that Benjamin would be pounding his fist on the glass to get Elaine's attention. But the minister in the church, who was overseeing all the filming, was really adamant that they not do that. And he told them that no pounding would be allowed on that glass. So instead, Dustin spread his arms out against the window, suggesting urgency without doing any damage at all. The author of the book patterned the Benjamin character after himself, right down to his distaste for his parents' wealth. Charles Webb, the son of a very successful San Francisco doctor, published The Graduate in 1963. He said that Ben and Elaine were modeled after himself and his wife, and there was really no Mrs. Robinson in the picture at all. The whole idea was that Benjamin had an anti-materialistic attitude toward life. He sold the movie rights to The Graduate for $20,000, which is a mere pittance considering how valuable it became later on. He went on to give all his royalties to charity, and he turned down an inheritance from his own father. Now, this film could have looked a whole lot different. We could have seen the boy wonder in the lead role. Burt Ward, then becoming very famous as the Cape Crusaders' sidekick in TV's Batman, was offered the lead role by the producer. But that idea was shot down by Robin's bosses because Batman was so enormous and so successful, they didn't want to dilute down anything to do with that character by having him play a different role. The iconic image of Benjamin looking at Mrs. Robinson's leg stretched across the frame of the shot. You don't even need to attach a tagline to it to tell you what you're looking at. Immediately, you know it's from The Graduate. Even if you've never seen the film, you know the poster. But ironically, that is not Anne Bancroft's leg that you're looking at. It's an unknown model that was paid $25 for that shot. When I say unknown, she was unknown at that time, but went on to fame as Sue Ellen Ewing on the TV show Dallas. Yeah, that leg was Linda Gray's. She was a struggling actress and model at the time and got the chance to make $25 extra. And for years, most people, when they saw this poster, thought that the leg was really Anne Bancroft's. This story of the 21-year-old college graduate with no real defined interest or aim in life, who goes on to be seduced by an older married woman and then becomes obsessed with her daughter in the end, was released in December of 1967, and it was a critical and commercial success. It grossed $104 million, becoming the highest-grossing film of 1967 worldwide. It received 7 nominations for an Academy Award, including Best Picture, and it won for Best Director. A lot of people have ranked this film as one of the most important and greatest films of all time. I don't know if I would go that far. It's a fun film to watch, but there's an oddity to it that I just can't explain. I'm truly not sure if it needs to be ranked as the 17th greatest American film of all time. It's just not there in my book. It's a fun movie, so check it out if you've never seen it, or if you have seen it, rewatch it. You'll see some great performances in it. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll continue to chase the classics.